Good morning, campers. This is Crusader Rabbit KBNY 5962 starting our broadcasting day. And today, for your viewer enjoyment, we're going to bring you the newest camera to my Rolleicord camera family, the Rolleicord V, or Rolleicord V, produced from 1954 to 1957, and judging by the serial number and interpolating because of the number of units produced, I'm concluding that it was manufactured sometime between 1954 November, December, and January, February 1955. But before we get started with this video, I'd like to thank the folks at Kohs Camera, Kohs Camera Inc. I had purchased a kit for the Rolleicord that will take and convert it from 120 film to 35 millimeter film. And a lot of the kits out there all say, hey, they don't come with like this one part, and they had that part. So I went to their eBay site and I purchased that part off of eBay from them. And then later on, I was looking around and realized that they had a bunch of other parts for the Rolleicord, and I was actually missing on my Rolleicord. I was missing the little shutter cocking lever. This guy right here. And I said, hey, I see you have a lot of parts for Rolleicord, but I'm missing that shutter cocking lever. Maybe you have one that you could put up for auction, and I could, snap it up really quick. Really appreciate that. And he said, oh yeah, I've got those. I've got the little locking nut for the back, and tell you what, I'll send one out to you absolutely free. What? On today's day and age, someone doing something out of the goodness of their own heart and sending it to me for free. Well, just got to take a moment and say, Jimmy at Kohs Camera Inc. in New Jersey, thank you. Or in New York, I believe. Sorry, misspoke. Kohs Camera in New York. Thank you very much for your time and generosity. And hopefully I'll be doing business with you again. All right, well, on to our Rolleicord V video here. This camera takes 120 film. So if you've never used 120 film, it's a slightly larger negative than 35 millimeter. Here's a 35 millimeter film roll here. Here's like a 120. Oh, here's a 35 millimeter roll here, and here's a 120 millimeter roll. So you can see that there's a slight size difference there. And this is a metal 120 roll. Currently, I believe that all of the new ones are plastic. So you can kind of see that there's a slight difference in the way that the metal roll looks and the way the plastic roll looks. So yeah. And there you go. And when you, for 35 millimeter film, the film is one side is shiny, one side is the emulsion. On the 120 film, I think my very first camera was a 120. It was kind of a hand-me-down camera that I was using, hand-me-down from my very nice big sister. I believe it was a Nomad camera. And these rolls are very reminiscent, because this is like the paper film backing of 120. I can remember you had like these numbers that would show up in this little red viewing window on the back of the Nomad camera. So basically, when you are developing 120 film, you strip off all of the paper, and there's also kind of like a tape that little piece of masking tape that tapes this to the film back, and you have to like take that off. So you separate the paper from the film, and then you put it on the developing reel. And I've heard a lot of people complain about putting stuff on the developing reel. And what I do is, like this is the developing reel, I just take a piece of film that I kind of messed up on, taking some indoor shots. And I take and I put it on the spool and feed it on. And that way, when I'm in the dark and I'm trying to feed the 120 film onto the film reel for developing, I can use this as a guide, and I can feed in the of course I'm in total darkness. I can feed in the undeveloped exposed film onto this reel, and then as I feed it through, then I can just like reach underneath that film and then pull this out, and then continue with the continue ratcheting the actual film on. So let's get back to the main star here, the Rolleicord V. Like I said, it was made from 1954 to 1957. They produced about 80,000 units. I believe. Kind of going round the camera. The real thing that's really fun with this camera is the you can see that this was engraved by the previous owner. It has a viewer that's top down view screen there, and very, very nice. A lot of times you see people that have engraved their cameras, and it's kind of like very scratched and chicken scratched in. This is like really professionally done, and then inlaid with that white paint. Very, very pretty, and it's kind of this is coming out like really kind of bright white, but it's actually kind of like a goldish yellow tint to it. So very, very, very pretty. And let's see. Right down here we have the shutter cocking lever. So to cock the camera, you take and move it over here, and it comes back. And then this is the, you can release the shutter this way, using this right here. Or, if you don't have the little shutter soft release, you can also release the shutter this way by just going in the opposite direction of the cocking lever. And if we move, and it's a twin reflex camera. The bottom lens right here, they refer to as the taking lens, and the top lens here, they refer to as the viewing lens. And when you focus, this is the focusing knob over here on this side. When you focus, it moves both the taking lens and the viewing lens together. So there's this better. So that whole unit moves and allows you to focus the camera, and then of course you're looking through the view screen here, top down, in order to focus the image. So once again, this is the focusing ring here. Again, a very nice scale here that you can use for zone focusing if you wish. Doing the Sunny 16 rule, you could go ahead and take the infinity mark, put it at the f16, and anything between about 3.5, I'm thinking, meters and infinity is going to be in focus, which is a nice range. What is that? That's 3.5 meters is like 10, 11 feet, 12 feet maybe. So very, very nice range there. This knob here is the film winding lever. So you would go ahead and you would cock the camera, you would take your picture, and then you would, after doing that, you would come up here, you would rewind, you would wind your film, and this little number of pictures taken indicator will advance from from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and the 120 roll holds 12 pictures. So that's pretty much that side of the camera. On this side of the camera, basically you just have 2 knobs that you take and you pull these out when you're inserting your film in your take-up reel. Okay, and on this side of the lens, there's like a little dial here. You can see right down there. This is where you set your f-stop, and it goes from 3.5 to f22. And this here is a it's a double exposure lock. So if you have it in this position, you can't double expose. If you have it in this position, it's possible to double expose. I believe that was a new feature for the 5. On this side of the lens, we have a little flash sync, M for bulb, or X for electronic flash. And then new to this particular model, I believe, is the V. So you would, that's your timed release. So you would cock your shutter. You could take this and you could move it to the V position. You can kind of feel it click while you're doing that. And then you can release your shutter. And that's how you took a selfie. You can get in your pic. Or if you're taking tripod shots and you don't have a little you don't have the little remote plunger for tripping the camera, you can use your time release to get your hands off the camera so that you aren't shaking your camera on a timed exposure. This right here is for flash sync, or for like plugging in your flash unit. And let's see, what else do we have? I think that's is that about it? Oh, bottom of the camera, you have the locking mechanism here to unlock the back of the camera. You just turn that like that, and then that kind of like sticks this out and allows it to come up, and then you can just pull on this tab and open up. You can see how there's like this little nub right here. You can see how there's a little hole in that little flap right there. So when you go to lock it, the little hole lines up with the little nub, and when you move the lock into place, this whole little latch retracts, and now the nub is through the hole, preventing you to open the camera. And the back of the camera is the little exposure guide. So I don't know if any of you remember, but it used to be way back when you bought Kodak film, it came with like a little instruction guide, and basically it had 4 settings, and it said, I think it was probably, like 100 ASA, and they would say, take your shutter or take your aperture and set it to 125, and then they would give you like the shutter settings, and or take your shutter speed, set it to 125, and then they would give you shutter, and then they would give you so you take your speed setting, you set it to 125. I'm so excited, and then you would take your shutter, and you would set it to different settings depending on what the little pictures were. And they kind of had like 4 different pictures. And one would be, it's like, snow or beach, sunny. And then it would be, it's, partially cloudy, but you can see shadows. And there might be, partially, fully cloudy, you can see shadows, and then fully cloudy, and you can't see shadows. And they would have then, different aperture settings, like, f16, f11, f8, f, 5.6, something like that. So, basically they do that here with these, like exposure numbers, to kind of give you an idea, so that if, depending on like what your ASA is, so this camera was only capable of handling like an ASA of 100, and there's like a little like ASA meter here, and I think you set it by, you move this thing. So you go ASA 125, 160, and then that was it. That was the highest. Of course, this isn't there. There's no light meter for this camera, so it's not like it's connected to anything, right? It's just a reminder. But then you would use that when it's like, I'm at the beach, so I'm going to be, and it's bright and sunny. So I'm going to be at a exposure level of 15. And then depending on the time of day, if it's noon, or if it's later, a couple hours later, or really long shadows, then you would need to open up more. So you'd be getting like a lower number there. And then instead of actually dialing in a number for your aperture, you would actually select your exposure number there. So the exposure, like if I set this for like f5.6, and if I come over here, and if I set this for maybe like 1/60th of a second, the shutter setting and the exposure setting are sort of synced or locked together. So when you move one, you move the other. As you can see, we're no longer on f16. This gave you the ability to, depending on, what you were taking a picture of, to be able to cycle through different film speeds, and it would automatically, if you had it set for the proper exposure, then you could like cycle through the other different possibilities, and it would like stay in sync. So this is a really fun camera to take pictures with. I've shot 2 rolls of film with it now, and I've had just an absolute ball shooting film with this. And I think I've only had experience with in the last few months with the 35 millimeter film, and it was just really fun getting into the medium format. I really need to get a medium format negative holder, so I'm kind of struggling when I'm going through and trying to digitize the negatives that I get from this. They're kind of distorted a little bit. I really need to get a holder, but given that, I'll go ahead and show you some a test roll that I took today with this camera, wandering around outside with my Sekonic light meter, and hope you enjoy the pics. So this will be the end of this part of the video. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. This is Crusader Rabbit KBNY5962, ending our broadcasting day. Good night, campers. These are pictures that I took during the digitizing process. I used my iPad Air as a light source with a HTML page open to a blank page. I was using a couple pieces of cardboard with some heavy objects on them as to hold the film in place. I really need to get a 120 film holder. And then I was using my iPhone to take a digital picture of the pics. So as you can see, it's the iPhone might not be perfectly parallel with the negative image, and there's some distortion in the image. Plus, I think the negatives bow a little bit between the pieces of cardboard that are holding them. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the actual pictures. I think the first couple of pictures here were kind of burnt from maybe improper film loading, but then after that, it kind of looks like that went away, and these seem to come out a little bit better. Some of my favorite shots here, the Go Fish Pokey. This is kind of a favorite photo of mine, taken this on many occasions, and the same with this one here. Didn't turn out very contrasty, unfortunately. Maybe because of the very light negatives. Probably needed to open up a bit. Fountains in front of the apartments. The roundabout. Last shot. I just love these chairs, the way the sun shines through and makes the shadow. All right. Well, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. This is Crusader Rabbit KBNY5962, ending our broadcasting day. Good night, campers.